what if David Cronenberg directed Spider-Man? We've seen many iterations of Spider-Man on the big screen, from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man starring Tobey Maguire to Mark Webb's Amazing Spider-Man starring Andrew Garfield. All of these Spider-Man movies have followed the same origin story. Parker gets bitten by a spider, gets buff, and becomes a superhero. But what if, instead, Peter Parker turns into a human spider monster? Instead of saving those in need, Parker traps them with his web and eats them for dinner. And instead of a kid's superhero movie, what if Spider-Man was made into a rated R monster horror flick with blood and gore and body horror? My name is Equilibrio, and today I'm gonna pitch my own Spider-Man movie. I've never done a pitch before, and I'm not even sure if I'm doing this correctly. I first got the idea of pitching my own movies based off of well-known franchises from Adi Shankar and his bootleg universe. So I thought, why don't I make my own version of that? Why don't I give it a shot? My Spider-Man pitch is heavily influenced by David Cronenberg's The Fly and Clay Chapman's Edge of Spiderverse #4. There's lots of story ideas, visuals, and characters I take directly from these source materials. If you haven't already, I highly recommend you check these out. Not just because they have a lot to do with this video, but because they're just great reads and a great watch. So at the start of this movie, we're introduced to three friends: Harry Osborn, Peter Parker, and Mary Jane. Mary Jane is an aspiring journalist and a Twitch streamer. She uses her online personality in Twitch streams to comment on politics. Parker is this quiet, scrawny simp who moderates Mary Jane's Twitch streams and acts as a cameraman when Mary Jane does in real life streams. And Harry is the spoiled son of the CEO of Oscorp Corporations. And Oscorp Corporations has their hands in everything, from building military grade weapons to the drug industry and big pharma. But Oscorp Corporations has recently been under fire by the media for experimenting on animals when testing their pharmaceuticals. Harry, who has full access to all of his father's facilities, sneaks Mary Jane into Oscorp laboratories to give her an inside scoop on the animal testing. Harry doesn't really care about animal testing or how that might taint his father's image in the public eye. He just wants to impress Mary Jane, and she agrees only if Peter is allowed to join too. Harry doesn't like it, but agrees nonetheless. When Harry, Mary Jane, and Peter sneak inside Oscorp labs, there's a whole bunch of animals in cages. Chimpanzees, mice, birds, cats, dogs. We get a shot of a cute puppy with tears in its eyes. All of these animals are scheduled to be tested with drugs that Oscorp is developing. Mary Jane is pissed and can't wait to tell the world about Oscorp's animal abuse. She's all fired up and pointing at things for Peter to take pictures of. Take pictures of that. Take pictures of that cute puppy. Take pictures of that chimpanzee. And Peter is obedient, eager to please Mary Jane. And Harry is talking his head off, answering all of Mary Jane's questions. His ego is off the roof right now. And if he doesn't have the answers, he's just making them up to impress Mary Jane. He does tell them, though, that Oscorp is developing a new drug that contains small amounts of gamma radiation. They just tested it on a spider and leads them to a red and blue spider not much larger than a fingernail, laying still in its glass cage. Mary Jane insists that Peter get some close-up shots of the spider, but Peter is a huge arachnophobe and can barely look at the spider, much less zoom in on it, even with a glass cage separating them. Harry, who would do anything to make his competition look bad, opens up the glass cage and holds the spider in his hand. Go ahead, Pete, take a closer shot. And as Peter reluctantly raises his camera, the spider jumps on his hand and bites him. Peter is freaking out, and just Mary Jane is laughing along with Harry. As the movie continues, Peter Parker starts getting superhuman strength, can walk on walls and shoot webs. The typical Spider-Man powers. He gets super buff, loses his glasses, and starts getting attention from girls. But his one true love is Mary Jane, and he focuses his energy on her. Mary Jane, who had gained a huge following after exposing Oscorp Laboratories, starts taking her journalistic ambitions more seriously and teams up with Parker to expose other corporations exploiting animals. Peter gets internet famous for his newfound good looks and gymnastic abilities, which Mary Jane exploits for likes and follows. She even makes Pete an Instagram with the handle Spiderman, as the internet calls him. Every day, Peter is getting stronger and stronger, and his ego is off the roof. And it's no wonder. A nerdy kid who never got any attention is suddenly swarmed with love and attention from the internet for his good looks and strength. He even starts dating Mary Jane, the love of his life. Meanwhile, Harry has lost everything. His reputation at school, the love of his life, Mary Jane. His father's credibility has tanked after Mary Jane's story on Oscorp, and is facing huge lawsuits that will make him bankrupt. At some point, Harry begs Peter and Mary Jane to help him sway public opinion back on his father's side. But Pete and Mary Jane are too lost in the sauce now. They have no pity for the spoiled brat of Norman Osborn. Harry, consumed by anger and jealousy of Peter, returns to Oscorp Lab in an attempt to save his reputation and his father's. Or at least, that's what he thinks he'll do. He's actually going to try and gain the same powers as Peter. But he realizes the spider had escaped after biting Peter. So he goes straight to the source, the radioactive drugs that were used to test that same spider. Harry injects himself with radiation. He survives, but something far worse happens to him. Instead of getting good looks, Harry grows pointed ears. His skin becomes green, scaly, and rough. His eyes yellow, his teeth sharpen, and his nose grows long and pointed. Instead of super strength, Harry gets weaker. He develops a hunchback and can barely walk. Essentially, he turns into a goblin. But something awful happens to Peter as well. Peter's appetite grows exponentially, and normal food doesn't fill him anymore. He starts eating raw meats at first, but then moves on to insects and live animals like rats. He obviously tries hiding this from Mary Jane. I mean, who wouldn't? But Pete's body also starts to morph. His skin becomes rougher and grows fangs like a spider. Peter even vomits digestive enzymes on his food before eating it, just like a spider does. And this freaks out Mary Jane. She starts having dreams of giving birth to spider babies and runs to Harry as a last resort for help. Harry, despite looking like shit earlier in the movie, looks surprisingly better. Although not completely cured, Harry looks more human than he did before, and that's because he found an Oscorp serum that treated the side effects of the radioactive drug. This serum was given to him by a one-armed Oscorp scientist named Dr. Connors. And Connors tells them that there have been human experiments with Oscorp drugs. These humans turned into deformed monsters and had to be killed. In fact, his arm was ripped off by one of those human test experiments. Harry urges Mary Jane to convince Peter to take the serum. Harry no longer wants to compete with Peter over Mary Jane. He's just genuinely concerned over his friend and concerned over Mary Jane's safety. He agrees to go with Mary Jane and try to convince Peter. But before Harry leaves with Mary Jane, Connors hands him a handgun. Just in case, he says. They go into Peter's house, kind of as a sort of intervention to stop Peter from spiraling down this monstrous path. But when they enter, they see Pete's house filled with spider webs and people wrapped in web like an insect trapped in a spider web. Think of Shelob's lair. We even see an Uncle Ben and Aunt May trapped by their nephew. When Pete emerges, he looks more animalistic than ever. He's grown another pair of eyes on his forehead, and his skin no longer looks human. It's covered in fine spider hairs. His fangs are longer and sharper than ever. Mary Jane tries to convince Peter to stop, but Harry knows it's too late. The Peter they once knew is lost. And Peter Parker is pissed when Mary Jane tries to convince him and almost tries to eat him. He lunges himself at her. Harry, who brought the handgun Dr. Connors gave him, starts shooting at Peter, and a battle ensues between Goblin and Spider-Man, while Mary Jane tries to escape in this house of horrors. This movie isn't just about the obvious theme of man versus nature, but about power and greed. With great power comes great responsibility, but that power that Peter gains in this movie is too much of a burden for him to carry, and as a result, he loses his mind and becomes this evil monster. My dream director for this movie would be David Cronenberg. My guy is known for body horror and gore, and this would be the perfect film for him to direct. I guess also because David Cronenberg directed The Fly, and this movie is a huge homage to that movie. And I'm talking about the 1986 version of the movie with a younger Jeff Goldblum. As far as casting goes, I mean, I would love a young Jeff Goldblum, but that man is older now. and it wouldn't really work. I was thinking Josh Hutcherson because he wanted to play Spider-Man once for The Amazing Spider-Man and didn't get the role, but now he's 31, so maybe it wouldn't work so much, given that this movie takes place in high school. And then I thought, why not give it to Gaten Matarazzo? He plays Dustin in Stranger Things. He was great in Stranger Things. I thought he was awesome. He's a great actor, and I think he'd play the perfect nerdy Peter Parker. As far as Mary Jane, I'd cast somebody who's like really beautiful, that has unattainable beauty standards. I'd cast somebody like Sydney Sweeney or Alexa Demi. I think they did a fantastic job in portraying the modern teenager in Euphoria, and I think they'd kill it in this movie. For Harry Osborn, I'd cast Elwin Mitchell. He played Aemond in The House of the Dragon. And because Ewan is known for his role in House of the Dragon, I think it really surprised the audience in seeing this guy as more of a hero. So that's it. That's my pitch for a Spider-Man movie directed by David Cronenberg. One that is more of a creature feature, more of a body horror filled with gore movie, and one that creeps out the audience more than has them cheering on the hero. Let me know if you enjoyed this superhero pitch, or what your thoughts are, or what your superhero pitch for a Spider-Man movie would be. I'm interested in seeing it in the comments. I'm thinking about making more of these pitch videos, so if you enjoyed it, consider liking and subscribing. I'll be posting more videos like this one. My name is Spider-Man, and... No!